Hi guys, it's me, smelly old me. It's what time is it? It's 9 o'clock on Thursday night. I think Nadia's just done the members live, and it's been a tricky day. It's been a tricky week. It's been a tricky 3 weeks for everyone, really. You may have seen in last night's vlog Nadia talking about how difficult it is for her to be with or around someone who she knows is sort of struggling with his depression and anxiety and what have you. And so, you know, things in any household become a bit tense and a bit difficult. You get pinch points and things like that. We had one of those pinch points today. And like Nadia said, she kind of drew my attention to the fact that I really haven't been using any of the tools that I know are out there in terms of helping myself. Yeah, I've moved away from antidepressants. You guys know that. I've kind of chronicled that move with the sort of recommendation of my doctor to kind of reduce my dosage gradually. The downside of that, obviously, is that I've had an immediate return to the levels of anxiety in the mornings, certainly in the mornings, and towards the end of the day too, and my sleep patterns have got worse. But so much of my headspace, my mental state of mind, isn't directly tied up with alcohol, because of course I haven't drunk for 15 years, nearly 16 years this October. But I've often talked about and maybe referenced the idea that one can have alcoholic thinking, or one can have compulsive thinking, or impulsive thinking, or, paranoid thinking, or, as Nadia calls it, sort of writing the narrative that you think is going on around you because it serves the purpose of your sort of low self-esteem, your image of low self-esteem. So, but it's easy for you to, in other words, it's easy for you to sort of say to yourself, I'm the isolated one, I'm the not the misunderstood, because I am understood, but I'm the one struggling a bit more than the others, because essentially I'm marked as slightly different. So so anyway, so the toolkit, and we often talk about how we try and strive to kind of solve the kind of the issues, the malaise, the sadness, and it's hard, isn't it, at a time where we've also talked about the fact that we're sort of societally, we're in a mental health crisis, because none of us know how to deal with this situation on a fully. We know we're dealing with it on a day-to-day basis, but on a sort of more seismic, philosophical, what it means to be a human and what we need as humans, which is different for all of us. It's a real challenge, and it's a challenge for some people on top of the challenges they were already having, if you know what I mean. And interestingly, one of those things, what I'm building up to really, is the fact that Nadia said, why don't you just plug in to a Zoom AA meeting? And I've talked before on some of these mental health catch-ups about how I've hesitated on the doorstep. I've hesitated on the threshold of AA meetings. I go to one in Hine Street in central London sometimes. And I like that because it really is one of the most anonymous venues around. But I don't go as often as I should. I haven't been as often as I could. I think the idea of the alcoholic, if you like, or the addict, is that we're sort of like, we're better than, or we've got a better grip on things than for ourselves than anyone else has. The idea that, if I'm in control, if I'm driving my car inside my head, I think I kind of know the best way to go here. And that means you cut corners. It means you sort of turn the other cheek when perhaps, you should do something. And you sort of bend the rules. And so, yeah, I've been to a couple, but I haven't been to anywhere near enough, because I struggled in many ways with many elements of what AA meetings are about. But I just went out to the car, I just signed up through Zoom, downloaded the app, and I just went to an AA meeting. And what a curious experience that is. It's very clever. It's very clever, Zoom, isn't it? I mean, I realise I'm slow to the table, getting to the table on this one. So of course you have a chair, you have the person who's taking the meeting, and then they control the microphones of everyone. So you're on mute unless you press a little icon that says hand up, and then if they choose you, you share. And the normal format of an AA meeting, for anyone who doesn't know, is that someone will, at the beginning of it, sort of talk for 15 minutes about their own story. And it might be the story of their life, or it might be about their current situation, or it might be about an element of their life. And then everyone else sort of shares back. And whilst they're talking, you can go through, you know, you can see the faces, can't you? I didn't realise this. And it was really interesting. Someone in the meeting said this. When you normally go into a meeting in a, you know, in a sort of church hall or an old school or wherever they put them on, you generally really only ever see the backs of people's heads. The sound is always a bit echoey. You're sometimes straining to hear what they're saying. And this I did in the car, took my coffee out to the car, and you can have them full face looking at you. There's no opportunity to kind of interrupt or cross share, so you're kind of safe. I tried to share, but it was an hour's meeting, and I think too many people were probably sharing, and there's probably an order of them coming up. And so all I'm trying to get to is it functioned in an almost better way than a physical meeting. Could this be a silver lining to my relationship with AA? None of the travelling to get there. A face-to-face recognition with people and listening and seeing their faces is nicer than sometimes just hearing their voices, which is what you actually get in a meeting, though you'd think that you'd actually see their faces. An opportunity, because you've got your earphones in, to really hear and think about what people are saying. And it had all of the kind of constituent elements of an AA meeting. So why did I go? Why did I do it? And I would fully recommend for anyone who's struggling, especially if it's around alcohol. I mean, obviously, Alcoholics Anonymous veers around alcohol. Narcotics Anonymous is drugs and all that kind of stuff. But I am a great believer that most forms of addictive behaviour are the symptoms of a deep-seated underlying malaise, depression, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, trauma, post-traumatic stress, you name it. And that's what my alcoholism was about for me, and my drug taking was about for me. And in the last week, or I'd say the last 8 days, if you listen to Nadia in the last vlog, or the vlog before last, I've had to listen to what she said. And though, whilst I'd like to sort of think, oh no, I'm doing really well actually, if you think that this is a kind of multiplication of what I normally am going through in my head, there's not a lot that's alien about what everyone's talking about, feeling, you know, a sense of what's the future, what's the point, feeling isolated, feeling alienated, feeling disconnected, feeling powerless, all those things. That's welcome to my world most of the time, and most people with most forms of mental health issues. But I was definitely, you have to trust that if your wife is turning to you and saying, actually, Mark, your constant downbeatness, even though you can be very jolly around it, you know, your default setting back, I suppose is what you're saying. When you fall back to your default, it's one of kind of bleakness and emptiness. That is a real struggle for her. I've talked a lot, and we've talked a lot together on the relationship podcast about how I struggle with her relentless upbeatness. And she posted something on the family Instagram today that was a very good reminder that neither way is the better or the worse. Both ways are fine. But she did say a remark on the fact that I'm sort of nipping at the edges around how easily she finds it, or not easily, but how she successfully manages to stay positive or motivated and what have you. And I don't want to be the one who's in any way pulling things back or pulling things down if and when I'm not at my upbeatness and silly all the time. And so that made me think, and that really made me think. And, you know, I think half of the problem for anyone is when you're told that your behaviour, which you yourself can't see for fully what it is, you know, how do you've got to trust that the reason that person's saying that to you isn't about them sort of scoring a goal or getting one over on you or being proved right. You have to kind of put your ego to one side and just go, you know what? I might not see or know what she's saying is true. I'm not necessarily even aware of it, but I have to just trust that this person loves me and cares for me, and what they're saying is what they're feeling. And I've just walked into an AA meeting in my car, in my drive, and it was a place of real calmness and retreat and it doesn't solve any of the issues fundamentally, but I just got that small sense of like a pipette drop of life-saving fluid landing in the bottom of a sort of vial. I just got a sense it was the first drop, and that with many more drops, I'll suddenly have enough holy water to kind of keep me going. You know, sometimes I fall foul, and I don't know if you guys do this, sometimes I fall foul of wanting to be so perfect at everything that I will just keep charging along relentlessly, doing more, and I become unaware of how my manner is almost maniacally focused on just perfecting that. And so as a consequence, you lose sight of yourself because you're just literally beavering away. So listen to self, listen to those who pull you up on your behavior. And I think this is a big thing to say to anyone out there who struggles with drink or you know, and when I say struggles with drink, I don't mean actively necessarily drinking. Maybe you've stopped and you're struggling with the having stopped, because the reason we drank, let's face it, or I did, was to shut up all of the jangly feelings and all the jangly thoughts and all of that kind of horrid stuff. But you take away the drink is the numbing agent. It could be food, could be cocaine, could be whatever it is, spliff for a lot of people, could be sex. Look at Russell Brand, he's talked about that a lot. Remove the sort of substance and you've still got the jangly feelings and all the weirdness in your head. And so you can relapse and you can be acting out, as they say, as a fully functioning nut job without any drink inside you. So that's why I always kind of hesitate when I say, oh, I've been sober for 15 years or I haven't had a drink. I haven't had a drink for 15 years. But sobriety of thought is something else to just being sober. And sobriety of thought does sometimes require you putting your pride to one side and listening to the feedback from people that you can essentially trust are telling you something for your own good. And that's what happened tonight. I did say a while ago, didn't I? I think I said I'd talk to you just before I went into an AA meeting, and I talked to you just after. I had a little idea that only a matter of 4 weeks later, that AA meeting would happen in my driving seat in my car. Went out, came back. This is the after, so there you go. Maybe there'll be something in this chat that might help. I would recommend anyone who's struggling, and if it has a sort of alcoholic contingent to it, go to the Alcoholics Anonymous website, and where it says search for where your meeting is, you just put in online, then put in the day or the time that you want it. So like, if you know, I did that for today. And it will pop up with a number of options. The great thing with online is it doesn't matter if the meeting's in Glasgow, Edinburgh, or wherever. The one tonight for me happened to be in North London. But there are a couple of Americans in there. And it's good to see. I was just reminded of the many, many different faces of the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was a good thing.